So you want to get into outdoor sport climbing. First thing you need to do is you need to find a friend, a mentor, and or a guide to teach you. That is the #1 first step of outdoor rock climbing, whether it's sport or trad. So now you might be asking, Ryan, how do I find someone who rock climbs? I just started rock climbing. Well, there's many ways to find partners who are more experienced than you. The first and easiest one is to usually just go to your local climbing gym and start meeting new friends. Look on their local partner board. Sometimes your climbing gyms will have get outside days or gym to crag days. Those are all great opportunities to meet new friends and to meet more experienced climbers than you. Another great way of meeting new partners is through apps like Mountain Project or Reddit. You can post onto those apps into your local subreddits or to your local forums, and you could reach out to see if anyone else is looking for a partner, or you could just post that you're looking for a mentor. And the climbing community is full of wonderful people. I am almost certain that if there are people in your area and you are a nice person, that there will be someone who is willing to teach you. Okay, so you met a new friend and now you have a climbing mentor and you're ready to get outside. The first piece of equipment you must buy before you start rock climbing outside is you need a helmet. Helmets keep you safe against falling objects. When you're climbing outside, whether it's due to other rock climbers, weather, just how rocks and how mountains work, things fall. Rocks fall, gear falls, water bottle falls, lots of things fall. If they hit you in the head, it's gonna really hurt and you're gonna have a really bad day. So the first thing you should always buy is a helmet. Okay, so after you get your helmet, you're gonna need a climbing harness. Many different brands make harnesses and they're all slightly different. Some are dedicated for sport climbing or dedicated for trad climbing or dedicated for big walls. It doesn't necessarily matter. When you're first starting out, get a more budget-friendly harness. You don't have to spend $200 on a harness to just start. Go on backcountry REI to your local climbing gym or your local gear shop. Try a harness on or measure your waist and buy one online, but just make sure you get a nice climbing harness that fits you well. And don't worry yet if your harness doesn't have the right gear loops and the right orientation, because you don't know yet. You don't have a preference. You can't know what you like or you don't like yet. So try a cheaper one out and then go climbing with it for a few seasons and see what you need and what you don't need. And with some knowledge of what you like and what you don't like, it'll be easier to determine which next harness to buy. So moving on from our harness and our helmet, the next thing we need is a rope. So ropes come in all different colors and lengths and diameters, and it might be a little bit confusing if you've just started out climbing and you don't really understand what you need and what's right and what's not. The main thing you need to look for as a new climber is you want to make sure your rope is a single rated rope, and I would recommend to buy a 70 meter. That would go around 9.5 millimeters thick. The reason I say that is because a 70 meter thicker rope will A, it'll last you longer, and B, that 70 meter rope will be more versatile in more situations. Say the crag was developed for 60 meter ropes, well, it'll be okay if you have your 70, but say you go to a crag that was developed for 70 meter ropes and you bought a 60, well, now you're in for a little bit of thinking. Start off, I would recommend new climbers to buy a 9.5 millimeter thicker 70 meter rope. Moving on from the rope, now we need pieces of gear to connect our rope to the rock. The things that we use to connect our rope to the rock are called quick draws. Quick draws are just 2 carabiners connected with what we call a dog bone. These dog bones are made out of normally Dyneema or nylon, but it doesn't really matter. So I would recommend new climbers getting anywhere from 12 to 18 draws, which is roughly 2 to 3 packs of quick draws. And that should cover all your local climbing areas, unless you're climbing in areas where the pitches are very long, which lucky you. Alright, so there are 2 more things that we need to buy before we can start outdoor sport climbing. The first one is a belay device. Now this belay device in specific is called an ATC. Now this is a device I recommend all new climbers to buy as their first device. A, because it's the cheapest, and B, because it's the most versatile. When you start shopping around, what I would recommend is to always buy an ATC guide style. What a guide style device means is it has this little clip-in point right here. As a beginner climber, that clip-in point does not matter. But once you start progressing in your climbing journey and you start multi-pitch climbing or you start top-down belaying at specific crags, this little clip-in point will come in very handy. And the greatest part about this is an ATC guide compared to a normal ATC. They're about $3 to $5 difference in price. So I would always recommend to just start off with the ATC guide and save yourself that $30 a year down the line. So your ATC can be used for many different applications. Obviously, it can be used to belay. It can also be used to rappel. That's why there's two different notches right here. This isn't a video about explaining how the gear works and how to use the gear. This is just a quick rundown. The ATC is also really good at rescuing in certain situations. But the only thing with the ATC is it requires one extra piece of gear. Now that extra piece of gear, this is called a prusik, or a hollow block, auto block, whatever you might hear it as. It is all relatively the same thing, they're just made out of different materials. Now this is a sterling hollow block. It is around $15 to $20. Say you don't want to spend $15 to $20 on one, you could go to your local gear store and get 1 to 3 feet of, I believe this is 5mm cordelette. You can use this essentially the same way as you would use this. The last pieces of gear you actually need to get outdoor sport climbing, you probably already have. Your chalk bag and your climbing shoes. But if you've already started climbing and you have the itch of getting outdoor climbing, you probably already have. So you just got everything you need to actually go outdoor sport climbing. But you still got some money burning a hole in your pocket and you want some more gear in your closet. So here are some extra things that you can buy. A stick clip is a great extra piece of gear to buy. They're around $100, but they work really well if the first bolt is really high and you're worried about ground fall. They also work very well if you're trying something way above your limit and say you can't get to the anchor. Then you could stick clip your way up through the section of the rock that you can't make it through or all the way to the anchor. And it's a very helpful tool for not having to leave behind bail gear. The piece of gear most of you guys will buy after you get all your basic sport climbing gear is definitely a gree or other assisted braking device. Assisted braking devices like the gree are around $100 to $150 depending on which brand you get. Feel free to look around at different brands. There are all sorts of different assisted braking devices from the gree, Edelred Pinch, Belay Birdie. There are so many different types of assisted braking devices. They all work great. Just figure out what you want. Another very useful piece of gear, if you're just starting out rock climbing to get, are some alpine draws. Alpine draws are pretty much essentially just normal quick draws, except instead of having a dog bone in the middle, they are connected with this Dyneema sling. And you can see this Dyneema sling is tripled up on itself. What that does is you can extend these, and that's why they're so useful. Say the pitch you're climbing wanders to the left and right a lot, these alpine draws can help mitigate how much the rope wanders and will reduce your rope drag. Also, as you get more experienced into climbing, you'll learn how many different uses these alpine draws can have. They're useful for extending things, anchors, say you need to girth hitch this to your harness real clip into a bolt. They work great for all sorts of things, and I would highly recommend picking up at least 2 if you're thinking about trad climbing in the future. Get 4, get 8, get 12, get however many you think you need. These are always very useful. So the last piece of gear that's really nice to have if you're just wanting to spend some money is a personal anchor system. PASs can come in all different shapes and sizes, and there's kind of 2 main styles of PAS system. Some people just use a simple Dyneema sling. I would probably recommend a 120 centimeter sling attached with a locking carabiner. So you could just take this sling and you could run it through your soft points, and then you can make it adjustable by adding these overhand knots wherever you would like throughout the sling. So now say you get up to the anchor and you don't want to be this far away from the wall, you can just take your carabiner that's clipped to the end and you can come up to one of these sections that you tied into it, and you can just clip the carabiner in short and shorten up that sling. And now you are only this far away from the wall. You can adjust it however you would like. Some companies make dedicated personal anchoring systems though, and I am personally a fan of them. The reason I like dedicated personal anchoring systems so much is because they allow you the ability to add an anchor to adjust yourself, to pull yourself in closer, or to flip this thing up and unweight it and lower yourself down and give yourself some extra slack. And I've gotten so used to it over my time climbing that I cannot live without it. I know plenty of friends who never climb with them and they're happy without them, but I myself always keep my PAS on my harness. So we discussed today all the necessary gear you need to buy to get into outdoor sport climbing, and then some of the more luxury items that are just nice to have. And so a quick recap of everything you need to buy: helmet, rope, quick draws, belay device and prusik, harness, shoes, and your chalk bag. So now you have everything you need to go outdoor rock climbing. But let me say it one last time. I am not a professional guy. I have no teaching credentials of rock climbing. Please find a friend, mentor, or hire a guide before you go outdoor rock climbing. I just want to leave you guys off on that note. Have fun out there, stay safe, enjoy the adventure, and send hard.